Welcome back everybody to another video from EICMA in Milan, the world's biggest and best motorcycle show, and we're at the KTM stand. They've had loads of bikes over the past month or two, but one of them they've held back for release here specifically is this, the 1390 Super Duke GT. Imagine if you took a 1390 Super Duke car and just made it a little bit more comfortable and amenable. That's exactly what you've got here. It follows on from the 1290 version, which was already a fantastic sports tourer. And so can this one live up to that previous gen? Well, let's go through all the details to find out. So naturally it gets the same 1390 engine. Well, it's 1350, so it's not quite 1390, but still it's a big V-twin. The LCA makes absolutely bonkers power now at 187 horses peak. That's up from the 175 of the previous generation, which probably was already enough. And so this thing will be absolutely rapid. And I think I'm right in saying now that that makes it the most powerful sports tourer available on the market. I think the S1000XR is like a very close competitor. That doesn't quite match it. Maybe you could say the M1000XR is up, around the 200 horsepower mark. But in terms of like non-specials, regular bikes, this is one of the most beastly of the bunch. It also makes 145 Newton meters of torque. I absolutely love this engine in the Super Duke. It's just got power everywhere. If you want to nail it when the revs are low and set off quickly, it'll do that, and it'll also rev up and make this bonkers top end. And so yeah, fantastic engine, a very exciting bike to ride, and I'm really looking forward to reviewing one of these. One tweak they do say they've made though versus the previous generation is it used to have quite a long 5th and 6th gear, which they called like overdrive gears for sort of cruising on the motorway. And I think what they're saying for this generation is that they've shortened them again to make it more like responsive and quick at any speed, they say. So it won't be so much lacking in response in 5th and 6th gear. And they specifically say as well that should make it more exciting basically to ride on the track. Now, you might not think of it as like your first choice for a track day, but I suppose what that makes it is a proper all-rounder, a bike that you can ride on the track, quickly on the road, but also there's enough comfort there, we'll get onto it in a minute, to do a bit of light touring, a weekend away and that sort of thing. Now, in terms of the chassis, you've got something very, very, very similar to the steel trellis frame on the 1390 Super Duke car. There's a few little tweaks for this generation, so they say the chassis provides increased torsional stiffness and a lower center of gravity, offering optimal front tire feedback for superior control. So, sounds good. And also it gets the same semi-active suspension package as the top dog Super Duke R Evo. Now I love me a bit of semi-active electronically adjustable suspension, because if you've got a bike like this that is meant to do a bit of everything, and then at the push of a button being able to go quite firm and sporty, just really plays into what this bike is all about. And it's one of the few rider aids that you're actually constantly using, as it monitors the suspension and tries to give you the best possible damping in real time. Now they say it's updated, it's the latest gen of this tech from WP, which is their in-house suspension brand, and what they say is they've tried to make it more refined in terms of sensitivity and responsiveness. And they say the biggest update to this bike that you'll notice in terms of riding it is the comfort suspension setting, which obviously is meant more so for touring and cruising along. And so hopefully what we've got here is a very versatile machine. Now, as for the brakes, well, they are top spec stuff. So Brembo style EICMA calipers, radially mounted, monoblock construction, so should give you the best possible braking performance. And they're on nice big 320mm discs, a pair of them up front and a 240mm disc at the rear. You've also got, I believe, a Brembo span and ratio adjustable lever, so that should give you a nice crisp feel at the lever. And you can also dial in the sort of response of the brakes to your particular wheels, 17 inches front and rear, so that's one of the reasons to buy this over a Super Adventure, for example, where you do have that slightly larger adventure bike front tire. This is going to handle much more like a sporty road bike, and they're shod with Michelin's Power 6 tires, which should be a really good sticky all-rounder that likes to go a bit quick, but also enough wet and cold performance to make it usable year-round. Now, ergonomically, the seat height isn't a million miles off the previous generation. In fact, it's just 1mm different. I think we've got a seat height now of 834mm as opposed to 835. So pretty manageable, I think, for most riders of like a moderate height. And they do say they've also put a little bit of work into the ergonomics to make it more compact. And that, in theory, should make it more comfortable sort of for longer days in the saddle. With the Super Duke R, for example, you might be reaching a bit further forward for the bars to get into that sporty position, but this is ever so slightly more sat up, and I think, yeah, in my experience, the previous gen was a pretty comfy bike, so this should be good as well. The big thing, though, that you'll notice if you sit on this bike and have a look in the cockpit is this new dash, and let me crack out the bob cam to give you a good look at it. It's running through its demo settings now, showing you some of what it can do, but basically it's humongous. 8.8 inches, which makes it one of the bigger dashes on the market. I think BMW do a 10-incher for some of their touring bikes, but really you won't see many as big as this on a sporty road bike. The idea is that you can split screen it, so you can show a bit of navigation on one side and then the riding stuff on the other side, and that should make it really versatile for a sports tourer like this, where you probably do want navigation on the screen. And it packs in a whole bunch of different layouts. You've got the connectivity settings, and so really interested to see what it actually feels like to ride out on the road. Now, I will say, recently they announced the 990 Duke R, and it has this massive dash as well, and I thought it looked a little bit prominent perhaps on a naked bike, but given you've got a bit of a cockpit here, it looks a bit more subtle. You've got redesigned switchgear as well in order to be able to control it, so a little joystick there, you've got your cruise control on the top, a mode button over this side. And so, yeah, what a cockpit. I think it looks really quite cool, and I'm into this dash, I think, in this context. Can I also just say as well, a massive thanks to DJI for supporting the channel and sponsoring this video and helping us with our EICMA coverage. And in this particular video, for these perspective shots, I'm using the Osmo Action 5 Pro, which is their latest and greatest. This is the camera we use for shooting our reviews back home, and I really love the fact that it's small and light, so it doesn't feel heavy on your helmet and things like that. The battery life is incredible, the image quality is brilliant, and also they've got a magnetic mounting system, which makes it very easy to move around different mounts or to take it off your helmet to have a look at the settings and things like that. Really convenient, really good, and also perfect for vlogging and things off the bike and covering shows and stuff like that. So if you're looking for an action cam to capture and share your rides on social media or with your friends, then definitely check out DJI. We'll put a link down in the description below. And once again, a massive thanks to them for helping us to cover EICMA. Now, tech-wise, as you'd expect, you've got all the settings you could ever possibly need. So there are rain, street, sport, and custom modes as standard. You can pay a little bit more and get 2 more custom slots, and a track mode. As we've said, it is partly intended to be able to be ridden on the track. Loads of different settings, loads of different rider aids within, all your traction control and cornering, ABS and things like that. But the big deal for this particular bike is this new front-facing radar, which opens up their recently updated suite of, you know, touring focused rider aids like active cruise control, front collision warnings and good stuff like that. It really does suit a bike of the Super Duke GT's nature. I'm a big fan of this tech. It's just another tool that takes a little bit of the sort of weariness, let's say, out of those longer rides, especially when you're in traffic that's yo-yoing in terms of speed. And so, again, really looking forward to reviewing this bike and testing that feature out and seeing if it makes it more of a convenient tourer. What I will say as well that I really like about this new update is the new aesthetic. I don't think I loved how the previous generation bike looked, because it looked kind of exactly how it should do in terms of how it's built technically. You take a Super Duke, slap a fairing on it, a bit of extra bodywork, and that's what you got. And it just looked a little awkward to me, a little bit top heavy maybe with the fairing or something like that. This new headlight though, I think is a little bit less bulky visually, and they've also changed the side panels here. They've made these, I think these are the cornering headlights. They're not as big. The side panels are a bit more angular and aggressive, and so I think this is a really good update. I mean, if you don't like how KTM bikes generally look, you know, they're always orange, very angular, very modern, then this isn't going to be for you. But I think within the bounds of what their brand style is and their identity, this, I think, is a really good job and makes for a much better looking bike than the previous generation. Now, price-wise, as you'd expect with all that specification and techification, it's not going to be cheap. So I think the previous gen was around the 17 grand mark, and the fact that, you know, bikes always go up each year, and they've also added the front radar and things like that, probably means it's going to be up around the 18 or 19,000 pound mark. It is a serious bit of kit, and so it's a serious price. So we'll give it a bit of a score. On performance, I'm expecting this bike to be 5 stars. Super powerful, brilliant chassis, and should be a lot of fun to ride. I think also you got to give it 5 stars for features, because it is comprehensive now. That new dash contains everything that you could ever wish to find on a motorcycle. Then you've got your radar stuff. It doesn't have blind spot warnings, but I think realistically it's going to do more than most people need. Looks, I'm going to give it a 3. I think it's a big improvement over the previous generation, but it's not going to be for everybody. You know, it's not going to be everyone's taste. And then affordability, I'm probably going to say 2 stars. You know, it's A lot of stuff. You get what you pay for in some ways. So if you pay a lot of money, you're going to get a brilliant engine, all that technology, a great chassis, Brembo brakes, WP semi-active suspension. But realistically, that price, is going to be only for a handful of people who can afford it. As always, though, let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. I love reading your comments when we're here at EICMA and getting all the feedback on the bikes. I'll put my playlist of all of our other videos that we've shot this week on the screen now, so you can check them all out. We'll be updating it all week as well, so do keep checking back. Also hit subscribe if you want to see each of the videos as soon as they go live, which I'm sure you do. A massive thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.